Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Rick from Only Football bringing you another great episode of Only Football brought to you by Star 6 Media. We're going to start off by recapping the Super Wildcard weekend games. We just finished Monday Night Football, so we'll get ready for this recap from Kyle and I. Then we're going to go into our top five performances of the Wildcard weekend. And then we're going to end it off with ranking the playoff teams. So, guys, stay tuned.
Let's go. It is
Wild
Card, Super Wild Card. Has it always been called Super Wild Card, or is that new? I feel like
I think that's new. But it's always been super.
It's always been super, and this week was no exception. We had games that we thought were going to be pretty close, Giants and Minnesota, stuff like that. And then we had games that we predicted to be complete and utter blowouts, and they didn't happen the way we thought they were. There was only one that, well, with Monday there was two, but a lot of close games. So let's get into it. Let's talk about your favorite team in the postseason right now, Geno Smith and his mighty pen. Did Geno Smith finally put the ink to the paper and write the damn people back? It's not nice to have people waiting that long for a reply. Geno's left them unread for a very long time, and I think, in my opinion, he wrote back.
Yeah, Geno wrote back this game for sure, but let's give it to him, right? Let's give it to the Seahawks. They were in it. They were in it that first half of this game. Obviously, they didn't win the game because the 49ers turned it on in the second half. They ended up winning this game 41-23 against Seattle. But Geno Smith and the Seahawks kept it interesting in that first half. Not great stats, I think, from Geno. I mean, 25 for 35 with 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. But kind of what he's been doing this entire regular season, surprising people. That was a pretty surprising stat line from Geno Smith in the playoffs. But they were in San Fran. It was against probably one of the best teams in the NFL right now. Dude, it was a tough one, but Geno Smith finally wrote back this game against the 49ers.
Geno Smith, obviously the replacement for my beloved answer at franchise quarterback for the last decade, right? Russell Wilson. I feel like I am more connected to the Seahawks organizations than I could begin to explain starting in 2013 when Russell Wilson destroyed the Broncos. Somehow it all kind of came back around. I was like, ooh, now we're going to take Russell Wilson. We're going to beat other people. And Russell Wilson had a terrible year, and Geno looked like a top 10 quarterback, and he did for the most part of the year. And that's why, Rick, I'm going to say that Geno did not write back. He didn't write back.
What?
The Seahawks
lost.
He lost.
Okay.
But I just don't think it's – I don't know. I've said it a million times. I don't think the 49ers, are a good measuring stick. I don't think you can really measure yourself with a team that is a juggernaut. Like, of course, that they can withstand that stuff. They played really close in the first half. They did go into halftime with a 1-point lead on the road. And Geno didn't – I don't think he threw an interception. I don't remember one. So there was nothing that happened in that game that you could say, like, oh, man, like, there's nothing you can point to and say Geno made a bad read. He made a bad throw. He fumbled the ball. It was just a lot of San Francisco being amazing. And that was kind of my question. I don't really think that Geno wrote back, but at the same time, I do understand and realize that there's a ceiling there. And if your ceiling is hey, he can get us into the playoffs, but we're not going to like beat those, top dogs that are in the playoffs, but we'll be there.
Yep.
Is that really a realistic goal? There are some people that are okay with that. They would rather have that. I can be in the playoffs than go into a rebuild and have a 2-16 season. Like nobody wants that. Sometimes you just hang on to mediocrity so you don't have to experience a full-on rebuild. And I think Geno Smith, he gives you that kind of comfort. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna take my hat off to Geno Smith because
Yeah.
even though it didn't end the way he wanted to, he outperformed everybody's expectations. It was a joke when they said, "Is it going to be Drew Lock or Geno Smith?" It was like, "Oh my God, is there a third option?" Like, why are those the only
We
two options?
Why are those the only two options? And we said it too in the preseason. We're like, really, this is what they've got to work with. And we saw what Geno did in the regular season. He made it to the playoffs, and I think you put it really well, right? Like he completely exceeded expectations. Another person who exceeded expectations, Brock Purdy. Brock hard for Purdy, baby. Brock hard for Purdy. We got Kyle crossing his legs over here because he's that Brock hard right now. His stat lines were actually was actually pretty good. This guy
Why
went.
wouldn't they be? What do you mean, actually? Of course
I
they would.
mean,
Of course they
first
would.
time in a playoff game, your sixth game in the NFL, and it's a playoff game. There's got to
It's
be some
different.
things, some jitters you work out. But 18 for 30, 332 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown, by the way, by Purdy. So
And a
4
rushing
total touchdowns from this guy, and the 330 passing, and he had 16 rushing on that touchdown. Very, very good stat line from Purdy. Christian McCaffrey caught a touchdown. Deebo Samuel caught a touchdown. Elijah Mitchell caught a touchdown. This team is just built for the Super Bowl. This team is built for the Super Bowl. The 49ers are built for the Super Bowl right now. And Kyle Shanahan, the fact that he is their coach, makes it that much better. Making it that much better right now. And they played a hell of a game. Again, rough in the first half. Not rough, but it was starting to get like, okay, why are the Seahawks keeping up with the 49ers? And then they just turned on the Jets in the second half to destroy them, 41-23.
Without taking too big of a deep dive into the Seahawks, whether they deserved or not to be in the postseason, I will say the Seahawks were not the greatest team in the NFC, right? They were a 7th seed. They were actually the worst team in the NFC. So I do think you have to kind of manage expectations, and we talked about that on Monday night, right? Dallas is going to be all freaking Brock hard because of that game, but you got to remember the the Bucks were, not the Bucks that we knew all year, and tonight was no
Yeah.
exception. The 49ers, however, played absolutely just lights out. Now that first half, I'll say Brock Purdy looked like you could see that there's a little pregame jitter. Like there was a couple
Yeah.
throws that you could see. But if that's what he looks like when he's, under pressure, okay, sure. That is fine. You want to go out there and you want to overthrow one and throw one at someone's feet because you feel like the pressure is getting to you. All right. The fact that he went into halftime and Kyle Shanahan's message to him was like, hey, and I love this. Kyle Shanahan said, Brock Purdy doesn't act like a rookie, so we don't treat him like one.
Yeah.
So, and when you're having a coach like Kyle Shanahan, he's going to hold you accountable. His message to Brock Purdy was not, just like no warm, fuzzy message. His message was, their plays have been there. You need to make them.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, he's right. There were plays to be made that were left out on the field in the first half, but he looked fine in the first half. He didn't look bad in the first half. It's just their expectations are very high of themselves, and they were losing by a point. That's really why there was pressure to be like, hey, there's some plays out there. If it was 14-0, I'm sure it would have just been like, let's just keep doing what we're doing. You're losing.
Yeah.
Like something's got to, switch. So what did he do? What did he do? Well, this is the kind of switch that he made. Okay. Purdy became only the 7th rookie quarterback since 1970 to win a postseason game since Russell Wilson. There's
Wow.
that circle of life again. He became the first rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl era to throw 3 touchdown passes and have a rushing touchdown in a postseason game. So the
Yep.
fact that he threw 3 and ran 1, he's the first rookie to ever do that. His 332 passing yards are the second most by a rookie in his first playoff game, and his game ranks third in 49ers postseason history for single game passing. The
Mhm.
other 2 spots are held by Joe Montana. He's got number 1 at
Wow.
357, and he's got number 2 at 347, and then 332, Brock Purdy. Insert Brock Purdy right there. Yep, right under Joe Montana.
Yep. Yep.
But
Impressive.
very impressive. It just seems like the fact that every time he takes the field, there's some kind of history being made should
Mhm.
be like this is our final stop to jump on the train. Like if the train is already, it's been gone for a while, and I
Mhm.
understand the doubt, I understand the Kyle Shanahan, I understand, but he has a lot of weapons, I understand all that, but so did all these other quarterbacks that played for the
Yeah.
49ers, and so did Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. What is it about Purdy that makes him so good? It's very hard to put your finger on, but I just think he may be a lot smarter than we realize. I saw plays there where he went not first read, second read, third read, then goes back to his first read and throws it. I saw a
Yeah.
play where he rolled all the way out to the left, avoided 2 sacks, ran all the way back, and then stopped. And right before he takes a hit, he throws a laser that Brandon Ayuk dropped in the corner of the end zone. If he would have caught that ball, it would have been easily the
Yeah.
greatest, the greatest play of the postseason. It was insane, this throw in this play. And it's a shame that it was dropped because now it's
Yeah.
barely going to be out there. But dude, I saw him playing way better than whatever it is the media is, telling you. If you don't watch him play a whole game with your own eyes, you'll easily think he's just out there managing. That's not what he's
Yeah.
doing, man. He's loose. He's running. He's free.
Mhm.
He has a confidence about him that is really unprecedented for his lack of experience. And he trusts himself, and his team trusts him. More importantly, his team. Listen to guys like George Kittle and the offensive line and Brandon Ayuk. Listen to how they talk about Brock Purdy. He is truly a very, very humble person. It almost seems like he's so naive he doesn't even realize
Mhm.
his greatness. He's just kind of
Yeah.
happy to be here, just kind of bumbling around, walking into the stadium looking like he works for a tech company, like just like, and it's like, hey
Looking
man,
like
you're breaking records. You're breaking
I was,
records out there.
I was gonna say, looking like a young Kirk Cousins over there
Yeah, just exactly, just
with a
very.
flannel on.
Yeah, the 49ers are gonna be really tough to beat, and I expected this game to be a blowout. I said they would win by 21, I believe, on our podcast,
They're close.
and they won by
18.
23 to 24, 18. Yeah, I think there was some points there at the end, but whatever. I mean,
Mhm.
it wasn't very close after the first half. The second half was it, and I said that when we were live streaming. I said, look, everything that could have possibly went right for the
Mhm.
Seahawks went right. They did everything. They had DK Metcalf very involved in the game. They had Kenneth Walker running the ball effectively, and they were holding the 49ers to field goals in the red zone. Those are your big 3 wickets that you needed going
Yeah.
into Candlestick. Hold them to field goals, get DK Metcalf, make him a factor, and let's run the ball. They did all those 3 things, and that's why they had a 1-point lead. But to think that they were going to be able to do that for another half of football, I was like, look, this is the best case scenario. No way they repeat that. And it just shows.
They
This is
did it
a
even
hard
better.
team. It just
Yeah.
shows how crazy it's going to be to try to get a team to have the first half that Seattle had, but have it for a whole game. I don't know if
Mhm.
anyone can do that.
And this is a San Francisco team that has won their 11th in a row. That's 11 in a row, 6-0 with Purdy. Like, yeah, this is insane, right? Like, just another history, like, check,
Oh yeah,
right?
Purdy's never lost yet.
He has not lost a game yet. It's just insane. And you mentioned all these things. You mentioned the game, what they did. Their defense stepped it up completely. 3 sacks, I think. A bunch of just they were everywhere. They swarmed this Seattle team in the second half. Um, I will say on Saturday when I was in Seattle, spirits were not high after that game. I'll say that much. A lot of people walking around a little drunk, but Seattle, I mean,
Really?
The 12.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. I thought you meant the team. Okay.
No. That'd be awesome if they had just made it back in Seattle and they're walking around drunk. That'd be dope.
Oh, yeah, dude, that's sad. I mean, it's
I'd be,
sad.
yeah, but I think Seattle understood that they got here, and it wasn't necessarily like a thing where they were supposed to be here. They were not supposed to be here. They got here. They went up against probably the first or second best team in the NFC, and they put up a fight in the first half. And then you know what? Realize, hey, Geno Smith, as much good as he did during the regular season, he's probably not that guy for the playoffs, and that's fine. He got him here. He gave him a way better season than anybody expected. So good for them. But at the end, Brock Purdy, the 49ers, the defense, Kyle Shanahan, they put a whomping on him, man.
Yeah, and you said 6 in a row, and I just want to remind you that 7 in a row, because nobody counts the Dolphins game. It's like, I don't know why. Jimmy G played 3 plays, and then in the first quarter.
Oh, but as a starter, he wasn't a starter. That's why.
Well, he started that whole game besides 3 plays.
Yeah,
and it was 0-0 when he came in.
He wasn't the starter though. He wasn't the starter.
I hate that.
We'll do 6 with an asterisk.
Like the whole game.
We'll do 6
0-0
with a little asterisk.
Okay, 6 with an asterisk, but you and I know what that means. But yeah, I'm excited for some future episodes to talk about how you feel about them moving forward. But our next game, wow. Let's just start with that.
Yeah.
We had the Los Angeles Chargers taking a little trip down to Duval. Pretty familiar with the area, pretty familiar with the fans, pretty familiar with the expectations when they drafted Trevor Lawrence. And I would say his first half was about as bad as you could have ever painted that picture. His first pass attempt was an interception. The first play was a run. The second play was an interception. It got batted down by 2 people. 2 people tipped it, and it got intercepted. And it just seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And eventually it was 27-0. And dude, you find out what a person's made of. And I know that it's never impressive to go down 27-0. Like, it's very hard to be impressed with that. But it is also very impressive to see somebody that is literally on a national stage in their first playoff game ever. And the expectations for Trevor Lawrence, right? When Brock Purdy goes out there and balls, it's like he's playing with house money. When Trevor Lawrence takes the field, it's like he's supposed to be like Peyton Manning. So it's not the same pressure. So Trevor Lawrence goes out there and has a 4 interception first half. And his ability to just keep his head up above his shoulders and just go out there and put together a comeback. And what Doug Peterson had, the identity that team, they have an identity. They play for each other. They love each other dearly. Like, Doug Peterson is like a father figure in the locker room, and it's so night and day from what they had last year with Stinky Finger. Like, way different. And I really thought just the fact that Trevor Lawrence was able to get his team back into this game was one of the most impressive things I've seen in a long, long time. And the last thing I'll say, when this game ended and we turned the live stream off, dude, I was upstairs and my heart was beating so fast. Like, I had so much adrenaline. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited and happy. I felt like how it feels when your team wins. But just because of how amazing the story is, and I also had friends in the crowd and stuff, but I had so much just sheer adrenaline running through my body after that game. It was one of the most fun games I've probably ever seen in my life. And I'm sure at one point you looked at the score and you were like, damn, right? And then you probably did it again later.
27-0, 27-7 going into the third quarter. And somehow the Chargers lose. How is that fathomable? The Chargers scored 27 first half points and 3 second half points. And 4 interceptions. You can't win when you score 27 points in the first half and you get 4 interceptions off this quarterback. that's just like going to the second half. That's either like you were just up your own ass too much, or the coaching was bad. In this case, Staley fucked it up, man. Staley fucked it up for the Chargers. What I will say though is that defense seemed like it quit. They did great things in that first half, the Chargers defense, and then the second half were just like they looked bad. I don't know what it was. I don't know how you have such a great first half and then look terrible in the second half against the quarterback who just threw 4 interceptions. You can't do that. That's not good football to play. That's not playoff football. Justin Herbert did okay, right? Like he didn't do anything outstanding. 25 completions, 273 yards and a touchdown. Like nothing, amazing. Austin Eckler was basically the guy for the Chargers in this game. 2 touchdowns scored. But man, dude, I don't know what to say for this Chargers team, but what have we been saying all year and what have we known for our entire football lives? The Chargers, they Charger sometimes. Just like the Cowboys, they cowboy. The Chargers charged this game away in the second half. They had the win. They just took their foot off the gas, left the car, and kept the keys running. Like that, they kept the keys in there. And that's all. That's what it was. They just fucking put it on autopilot, fell asleep, and all of a sudden they're crashing into the median on the highway. That's exactly what happened. And I have a hard time thinking Staley is back as a head coach next year.
Yeah, expected some news to come out today. Nothing happened, but I know after the Rams game on Christmas, Hackett was fired, on the Monday at 10 a.m. And today I was like, oh, it's almost 10 a.m. And, no news. So we'll see what happens with that. But I would say I didn't feel exactly like the Chargers defense didn't, play well. It's hard to explain, but when you're watching the game, it almost felt like Jacksonville in the first half just kept shooting themselves in the foot. And then it seemed like Jacksonville in the second half stopped doing that, and we had a ball game. And I really think it's important to note it was 27-0, but there was a 47-yard drive to end the half. And that was Trevor Lawrence getting on the board. So at half it was 27-7. And the Jaguars were going to receive the ball to start they kicked it off to the Chargers, but then they got the ball right back from the Chargers because they went on a 7-play drive and then they punted it and then the Jags scored. So it seems like it was 27-0, but just off that touchdown at the end of the half and then the beginning of the third quarter, holding them and then getting a touchdown, really it was 14-27 with an entire half left. So it was one of those where on the score you're like, how do you let that happen? But it's like people can make up 14, 21 points. Like that can happen, especially when you're going into halftime, and especially if you receive, because you can go 2 for 1 if you receive on the other side of half. But I think Jacksonville used that last drive. That is what changed everything. They got that touchdown at the end of the half, and it felt like they had turned it on finally. Like that drive was like, hey, okay, we remember we can do this. Okay, we can play football and also I have this very simple philosophy when I'm not a coach, but if I were, I would tell teams that are down 20 points at halftime. I'd be like, hey, you know what? They could score 20 points on you in one half. So it's possible for you to go do it to them. And I feel like that always has to be your attitude. And Jacksonville went out there and their defense played really good. Justin Herbert didn't look like he did anything necessarily to just, you're throwing the game, you're Herberting it or something. He was just, there's a couple 4th and 1s and 4th and 2s that Staley punted on the 50-yard line. Yeah. And I'm like, look, it doesn't really make sense to me because if you continue some of these drives, the Jags don't have a shot in this game. And here it is, Jacksonville getting some momentum. They get 2 touchdowns. Now you're driving. You're at the 50-yard line. It's 4th and 2, and you're going to punt it back to Trevor Lawrence. It was like doomed from the beginning. You just knew if they punt that ball, Jacksonville's going to go score a touchdown. So why not, as a coach, go for it and keep him on the sideline? You go for it all season long on your own 20.
I know.
now
Yeah.
when you actually need to do it,
Yep.
exactly what it felt like to me, Rick. It felt exactly like he knew that if he loses the game and he
Mm-hmm.
went for it on fourth down a couple times, they were going to get rid of him. It seemed like he was playing for his job and not playing the actual game.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you get sidetracked. And Jacksonville, they were never playing for jobs. They were always playing the game. I think Staley is the person to blame for the loss. I think he got too caught up in protecting his job moving forward, and it cost the Chargers the win.
Yeah. And look, the decision of him punting, you're gonna look at that and yes, absolutely. You're like,
There's like
what the hell are
3
you
of
doing,
those.
dude? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, what the hell are you doing? Now I can understand that. Maybe like the first few 2-ish, 3 drives in the third quarter. But when you get out of that third quarter and you've been outscored 14-3, okay, time to switch it up. It is time to switch it up as Staley. I'm not going to punt it anymore to this guy because yes, he threw 4 interceptions, but he's turned around and has now thrown 3 touchdowns. What am I doing wrong? Let me switch the focus. Instead of punting it on the 50-yard line, let's start going for it with my franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert, my all-star running back, Austin Eckler, my wide receivers. Like you gotta take these things that you have, these weapons that you have, and just turn it on against the Jaguars. Because credit to Lawrence, man. He said, "Yep, I threw 4 interceptions. Now I'm going to go back in the second half and throw touchdowns." It's exactly what he did. So I don't know if Staley's going to have a job by the time, the season starts up. It's going to be a tough go for anybody as far as Chargers fans too. I think they're even frustrated with him. But I feel like I did not give enough credit to Trevor Lawrence, Etienne, Doug Peterson, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, all his wide receivers, Ingram, like all these guys played really well, and they were playing down 27-7. And
Yeah.
the defense held the Chargers to 3 points. So tons of credit to the Jaguars.
Totally agree with everything you said, especially the defensive line holding Eckler to 2.7 yards per carry on 13 attempts. That is a solid job by the D line. Only 13 carries though. That's interesting when you got a 27-point lead. Our next game, the Miami Dolphins going into Buffalo Bills. I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast there were a couple predetermined blowout games. We were still going to always, stream them, playoff football. But Dolphins with no Tua, with no Teddy Bridgewater, going into Buffalo, emotional plays, playing with a lot of emotion. Josh Allen, number 1 team in the AFC. Whoa, that's not how that went at all. I mean, that was like, this was a very, very tough game to watch. And it was just because you knew that the Bills are capable of doing so much better.
Yeah.
And there was so much that they were able to do. There was a couple times that they wanted to score before the end of the half. So they called 3 plays, and just like that, they have 70 yards. 1 play to Diggs, 1 to Gabriel Davis. Like their ability to just, you blink and they're on the other side of the field, that was there. But then there was a lot of this other stuff, a lot of just Josh Allen throwing it downfield into double coverage and it gets picked.
Yep.
It's just like forcing the ball because the game was getting close and it was uncomfortable probably at home. Like, hey, we can lose in the playoffs, but we can't lose to the Miami Dolphins playing with Skylar Thompson. That is absolutely not possible. And I think it started changing the way that they were playing. And are the Bills, is this any kind of representation of what we should expect from the Bills, or is this a total fluke? And you got to give credit. I will give a lot of credit to Mike McDaniel. He tried to make the quarterback position very simple for a Skylar Thompson with very little experience. He had his team ready to play. I'm sure he said something like, "They didn't give us a chance." The underdog speech. And Mike McDaniel is a realist. He might have sat down with his guys and didn't do a hoorah speech. He might have been like,
Yeah.
we have no business winning this game. They are much more talented roster today, but wouldn't it be cool if we win? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be
Wouldn't
like
it
a
be
cool
dope?
Wouldn't that be something like you could
Yeah.
hear him doing? And, his team went out there and played, and we got a real playoff game with a 3rd
Mhm.
string quarterback
Mhm.
against a team that could have been the number 1 seed. Like, what do you make of the reasons why we got a good playoff game? Is it more about the Bills sucking, or is it the Dolphins coming up, coming up
Mhm.
or giving them their best shot? What do you think? Is it the Dolphins or the Bills?
I the Dolphins definitely stepped it up, but I will say Mike McDaniels, for all the credit that we do give him, he had a really hard time getting plays out to Skylar Thompson and making him look just a little bit bad, calling timeouts, a lot of delay of games towards the end as well. So, as much as I want to give credit to the Dolphins, this game was just, man, it was like both teams were trying to lose it almost. It's like both teams were just fucking up. It really was. You had Josh Allen, like I was saying, or like how you were saying, tossing those interceptions, throwing into double coverage, getting incompletions, all sorts of stuff, man. And this is Josh Allen from that 4 or 5 game skid that I was talking about, right? Why does he have multiple games with multiple interceptions? This isn't the Josh Allen that we need to see right now. We need to see early season and late season Josh Allen. But somehow he's two interceptions, 3 touchdowns. This isn't something that you can keep and maintain throughout a playoff. You're trying to get to the Super Bowl throughout the playoffs. You can't maintain a team. You can't get a win with that. So I really don't know who to give credit to. I want to give credit to Mike McDaniels for what you said, making Skylar Thompson look pretty decent at quarterback. Now, nothing crazy from Skylar Thompson, right? But 220 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, sure, 2 interceptions, but this is a guy who just started his 2nd game of the year ever, right?
Yeah.
Not bad, man. And with the weapons around him, Tyreek, Waddle, Gesicki, all these guys, like he was able to make it work. He was able to make it a competitive game. But again, Skylar Thompson, brand new guy. The defense on the Dolphins, not that good, although they did intercept Josh Allen twice. But now on the other side with Josh Allen, 3 touchdowns. Awesome. He got a ton of passes off to Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, which we'll talk about later. And he was able to get them scores too, not Diggs, but he was able to get it to Knox, get it to Beasley, by the way. Holy shit, Cole Beasley has entered the chat, right?
Yeah.
He was able to get a lot of things done offensively, but man, it was like, why wasn't this a 41-23 game like the Niners and the Seahawks? Because that's what we all expected. And you said it at the beginning of the segment. Games we expected to be blowouts turned out to be a lot closer, right? I mean, this game ended 34-31 Bills when it probably should have been 34-17, 34-20 Bills, something like that. But I there's a lot of credit to be given to coaches, to players, but it's just like it felt like this game was just like just kind of a very wild card game. I guess that's how I'll describe it. A very wild card game because you didn't really know who was going to win. But Bills came out on top, luckily, but they cannot play like this again at any point in the playoffs, especially going up against the Bengals next week.
Yeah, and the numbers were there. I mean, Stephon Diggs, 114 yards on 7 receptions. Gabriel Davis, 113 yards, only 1 less yard on 6 receptions. So, like,
Yeah.
it just shows you that Buffalo, even when they're playing just not great football, that they're still capable of doing, good numbers and putting up 34 points. Like, it's not like they just completely shit the bed. It just
Yeah.
seemed like we know that you're capable of so much more, right? And that's a good thing. I feel like that's one of those good compliments you can get from somebody is like,
Yeah.
hey, I know that you're capable of more. So come on, let's be the Bills. So like you said, next week they're gonna have to definitely play like that if they want to take on Joe Burrow and the Bengals, because those guys are gonna be ready. And our next game is probably, you said it's the wild card weekend. That was a wild card game. This is kind of a wild card performance, especially you. I know you think it was, right? Because we went very in depth just a couple days before about a particular person that you particularly don't want in a uniform for the Giants next week. And he said, What are you talking about? I'm the franchise quarterback. Giants beat the Vikings in Minneapolis. Uh,
Yeah.
dude, Daniel Jones has a just lights out performance. He's got
Hmm.
an insanely high QBR. He rushes for over 70 yards, averaging
Yep.
4.6 a carry. He makes good reads. He throws in the right spots. They were good balls. The Giants were running with Saquon Barkley. The defense was playing tough. Thibodeau was a factor. It looks like, as far as Dabble, it looks like their nuts got even bigger when they went on this trip because Dabble seems like he's one of those guys that knows how to get the most out of what he has. You look at the Giants
Yeah.
team and you're not like, dude, that is the Eagles or the Bills. That's not what you think. But Dabble is
Mhm.
just one of those guys that's like, hey, you give me some men and I'll give you a football team, like a real football team. I don't need all the fancy stuff to put it together. I can put it together with wide receivers that you've never even heard of. We can go out there, take the field, and get it done. I think Dabble has cemented himself pretty much as one of the best new coaches in our league with a win like that. So, what's your big takeaways from this game?
First big takeaway is, and I see Bill here in the chat, Daniel Jones looked legit, man. Daniel Jones looked legit. Like you said, great game, rushing, passing. He made Saquon stats look like shit, but the only thing that saved Saquon was the 2 rushing touchdowns he had, right? He was getting the ball to no-name wide receivers. The guy who was on the waiver wire, right? Like not too long ago. So Daniel Jones looked good, man. He looked really good. And my second takeaway is the Vikings frauds. This entire season, frauds at home, same weapons, fraudulent defense. Now, I will give a lot of credit to Cousins trying to make this a game, right? Because I mean, 2 touchdowns, 273 yards. Like he was trying, he was doing his best, no interceptions. But what have I been saying this entire season? That Vikings defense is sus. And they showed it today in a game they needed to win, that Daniel Jones and the Giants can absolutely destroy them. And we've seen them get absolutely destroyed by teams. But this is just another example of why that Vikings defense needs to be priority number one into going into the offseason for the Vikings.
Absolutely. And you said Kirk Cousins, you're like, would you want to keep him and stuff like that? Like, you look at the stat line, and you mentioned it, 273, 2 touchdowns, 31 for 39. That's a lot of completions,
That's efficient.
but this is also a person that with the entire season on the line hits his check down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like, brother, you got to at least get the ball to the line to get. Like, you can't
Yep.
throw a check down in that situation. Like, where's Justin Jefferson? I get it. You got him double covered. Thielen, like, where's Delvin Cook? If you're gonna throw a check down to somebody, not Hawkinson. I know he had a really good game, but
Yeah.
Delvin Cook's your playmaker. Maybe you get him in space. Okay, we got a chance. But Hawkinson caught the ball and he was immediately, tackled, and it was just kind of like, that's how the season ends. That's your
Mm-hmm.
big play on 4th and 8 with everything at
Yep.
stake. That just felt like the head coach sold everybody a little short for that play. I was just kind of like, that's how this is going to end. That is a really wild play call. And we've talked about the check downs
Yep.
about on
Yep.
4th and 15 or 3rd and 15. It's like, are you guys even trying to get the first down, or are you just ready to punt? I just can't believe that we would have had to have that conversation with the whole season on the line, that you throw it to.
Yeah.
And the
That was
playbook. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that was a bad check down, man. And like you said, like he played well, but again, TJ Hawkinson had a really good game, 10 catches for like 100 plus yards. You better have, if you're gonna check it down 3 yards down from the scrimmage line to TJ Hawkinson, you better hope he has at least 7 yards of separation between him and that guy.
Right.
At
Yeah.
least at least give him the shot to make a move, because that was just not it. And like you said, Justin Jefferson's double covered. Anybody else,
The
Thielen,
entire day. The entire day.
the entire day, yeah. It's like you got to give it to that guy anyway. He makes stupid catches. He makes these bad throws look amazing when he catches them. right? Like it's just I don't know, man. There was a bad way, like you said, to end the season. And real quick before we move on, I just want to acknowledge everyone in the chat here. We got Steve, we got Tyler, Bill, KC. Bill said frauds about the Vikings. True, it's very true. So I don't know, man. I the Bills, you got to give credit. Not the Bills, sorry, the Giants. You got to give credit to the Giants, though. Daniel Jones really showed up in this game. Saquon Barkley with those 2 touchdowns. The defense for the Giants, which has been meh, not great, not bad, kind of in the middle.
The
They
Giants
stepped it
defense.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't been that great of a defense, especially I
Yeah.
think their passing defense. They definitely stepped it up. And
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota just it's felt like the entire game, it felt like the Giants were a better football team. Like on
Yeah.
every phase of the game, the Giants just played mistake-free football. It's like, hey, we know who we are. We know
Mm-hmm.
what our limits are and what we're capable of doing, and we're just gonna do the simple things right, and we're gonna do them better than you. And we're not
Yeah.
gonna make mistakes. We're not gonna shoot ourselves in the foot. And we're gonna also find a way to do all that and still play a free version of football. Like they weren't like robots. They were
Mm-hmm.
moving around and Daniel Jones out of the pocket, making it up. It was
Yep.
just, you got to like, I said this in the YouTube short. It was like, of course, Philadelphia is going to be obviously the team favored, but the Giants, they have a franchise quarterback, and you always have a chance when you have a franchise quarterback. Those are words that I couldn't say with full confidence last week that I will
Mm-hmm.
say in the division round. So, I mean,
And
at
and real
that
quick,
point, yeah.
I was gonna say real quick, like you said, Dable gave him that inspiration. I fully believe that. Like you said, he told them, "We're out here to play playoff game. So fucking let's go." Right? Like I feel like that's the kind of coach Dable is. You see him on the sidelines, you see how emotional he gets after wins. That's the kind of guy he looks to me like he is, right? And I think you would agree.
Yeah, no, totally. And just like how the Bears, even though they got the first overall pick,
Yeah.
Justin Fields being a franchise quarterback felt like a win.
Mm-hmm.
This game to me just had vibes that was like, no matter what happens from here on out, what Dabble has done with um,
Jones.
Daniel Jones, thank you. What he's done with Daniel Jones is
Mm-hmm.
a greater accomplishment than anything that's happened on the field for the Giants this year.
Yeah.
He is just that is like a put that on your resume. Seriously. Like put that
Honestly, yeah.
turned Daniel Jones into a franchise quarterback. How long did it take? 17 weeks. All right, because in the beginning of the season, it was all about, hey, don't throw interceptions, because that was his thing. He threw a lot of picks. So
Yeah.
Dable first got there, it was all about don't throw picks, don't throw picks. And then you saw a little shift 5 weeks ago where it seemed like they were like, hey, like he's ready. He stopped throwing the picks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's let him loose. Let's let him loose and see what we got here. And they let
And
him loose.
and if we're gonna talk about the next weekend matchups on our Wednesday episode, but just real quick, depending how he plays next week, it's almost like you got to give him a chance to be that starter next year.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
you know what I mean. Like you said it last week, and I didn't really believe it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if Daniel Jones is the guy. Obviously, Bill was in here too. I was like, I don't know if he's the guy, but the performance he put on, and depending on how he does next week, like how he faces a really top tier team going forward, is really going to be that. I feel like that deciding factor for next year. Although I think he has a very, very good chance at starting game one next week or next year. Either way,
Yeah.
until they either decide they want to move on from him or decide that they want to keep him.
Yeah, definitely. And the last thing I'll say, we'll move on. You look at the
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacks that won, Trevor Lawrence, and then Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, and then you got Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts in the bye.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a small group of quarterbacks that are still playing football. So no matter what, it seems like that counts for something. Your name
Yeah.
is in a small group of players. Lamar Jackson's not in this category. Justin Fields. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks, but you're one of the few standing, and you are the most important player on
Mm-hmm.
the field. So, it's he has to have some kind of value to still be
Yeah.
playing next week, even though he didn't seem like the most talented. It's like, well, as long as he can win, nothing else really matters. And I mentioned Lamar Jackson. Well, Lamar Jackson decided not to play in this
Hmm.
game. Could have been the injury. It could have been that he literally couldn't go out. He wasn't at full speed, but there was
Hmm.
also talks about the contract and if he was just kind of doing the whole bowl game thing, don't want to get hurt for the combine. Like, was he protecting himself for his value? Tyler Huntley would take the start while that controversy was stirring.
Yep.
Then the Bengals being at home, they were going to play a tough team. We live streamed the game together. It was
Hmm.
always going to be a difficult game. The one of the top 3 defense and points allowed, it was going to be low scoring. And Tyler Huntley made a couple good plays, and the Ravens set up perfectly to win the game. But the touchdown that they were supposed to score to go ahead, their go ahead win, actually ended
Yep.
up getting batted out of his hands, and it ended up being a go-ahead touchdown for the Bengals. One of the
Hmm.
biggest turning points of any game in this wild card weekend. What did you think about this game? And do you have any like is your where you have the Bengals on your power ranking, does that drop at all, or are you just impressed with the Ravens?
um, I will say I'll give a little sneak preview to our rankings. It does drop the Bengals a little bit. Um, Tyler Huntley went out there and played really, really well. Sure, he fumbled the ball at the goal line when he probably was not supposed to even try to try to stretch it out there, right? But he threw for 2 touchdowns. He did have that interception. He had the game sealing fumble, but man, he went out there and he is another example of good coaching, like with Skylar Thompson and Mike McDaniels, right? He is a product of good coaching with John Harbaugh there. He did really well. It almost seemed like you said Mike McDaniels made this a very simple offense for Skylar Thompson. Felt like John Harbaugh did the same thing for Tyler Huntley, and he was able to perform very, very well. This was a close game up until that fumble, right? It's 24-17. If it wasn't for that fumble, it would probably be going into overtime. Maybe the Ravens got in the lead. Maybe Joe Burrow has to turn it on. Maybe and then it goes into overtime. Whatever. This was a very good game by him. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, they played really well as well, rushing the ball. Mark Andrews at 73 yards. Demarcus Robinson and J.K. Dobbins both had a receiving touchdown. This game was it was a good one. And if you didn't see the short that Kyle posted of us reacting to that 99-yard touchdown by I forget who the Ravens guy was that scored it.
The
It
Michigan
was
bully.
yeah. It was Hubbard, that's who it was. It
Hubbard.
was exciting. It was an exciting game, and we really thought we were going to see the Bengals possibly lose or possibly go in overtime for a possible loss. But it was an exciting game, and like I said before, the Bengals knocks them down a little bit on my power rankings as far as playoff teams, because honestly, Joe Burrow didn't have a great game. 209 yards and a touchdown. He didn't have really a great game, and I feel like his defense kind of bailed him out there. It I don't know what it was, and it's Tyler Huntley. It's a third string quarterback. It's not Lamar Jackson. It's a guy who relies on Mark Andrews to get a lot of his passing or even his running backs, right? Like a lot of his passes were to J.K. Dobbins, were to Mark Andrews, a lot of this. But Joe Burrow, man, he couldn't take advantage of a team with a third string quarterback and was only able to score 17 points, something that they've been doing basically there the entire season without Lamar Jackson. Um, Even the running game, Joe Mixon, only 39 yards on 11 carries. Perrine, 2 carries, 3 yards. The best player other than Burrow on this Bengals team was Jamar Chase. He had 9 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. There really wasn't too much to say about this Bengals offense because it was it was very average. But it was the defense really that came out on top and saved their ass.
Yeah, I think you gotta give the Bengals a little more credit because
No.
The Ravens are a good defense. Like they have a
Yeah.
good squad. They keep man, they scored 24 points and they normally don't give up that. I know there was a defensive touchdown, but 17's about where they normally score. But
Yeah.
even last year, right? This Bengals team was good enough to make it to the Super Bowl last year, and they beat the Las Vegas Raiders 26-19. Then they beat
Mhm.
Tennessee in the divisional round 19-16. Not even 20 points scored in that divisional round, right?
Yeah.
Mike
Yeah.
Vrabel, a hard-nosed defensive football game, and then the Chiefs, they win in overtime with 27-24. So like to me, I understand that like we're so accustomed to seeing like 34, like the best offenses 34, 37,
Yeah.
but sometimes you just need a guy that can just get every game's different. I do think the nature of this Baltimore game, it was going to be a low scoring game, and Joe
Mhm.
Burrow needed to make sure that he didn't make any mistakes and that he took
Mhm.
care of the football. And I still
Mhm.
saw him make great throws under pressure, knowing where his reads were. Like everything that happened in this game just seemed like a continuation of the playoff games that they won last year. It doesn't jump off the screen like the 49ers Seahawks game. But when the game's said and done, the Bengals will be the team to move on to the next round. And it seems like no matter who they play, they
Mhm.
game plan differently and they find a way to get just enough done every week. And that's all that really matters is that you get enough done to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
Yeah.
And next week, all that's going to matter is that they can get enough done to beat the Bengals in Buffalo. But
Yeah.
to think like Cincinnati is like, knock them down, a bunch. It's the playoffs. John Harbaugh is a fantastic coach. He's a great coach. The running backs,
Playoffs.
they average 5 yards a carry. The Dobbins averaged 5 yards a carry. The other guy averaged like I think over 3. They were running the ball really good. I mean,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
playoff football,
Yeah.
so maybe you're right, and I'm a little slow, but I think the Bengals may still be the team that we think they are, and yeah, I respect your point, but I'm just going to propose that the Bengals
Yeah.
are the same team that we thought they were going into the game. And it's
And
funny though how you can get a win and still knock someone down.
yeah, and Casey here agrees with you. You rarely see an individual player play great every game. Burrow has the leadership qualities to succeed. A W in the playoffs is a W. And yeah, they move on. They move on with a W, whether it was a defensive touchdown, whether it was a field goal, whether it was Burrow running in for another touchdown. The one thing I don't like seeing, right, is we talked about Purdy, how well he performed in his first playoff game. Joe Burrow has been here. Um, and I'm not going to be one of those guys that says act like you've been here before, right? Like,
He
but
won.
to a certain extent, you got to, right? They won, absolutely. But man, like you had to like, and again, no, not discrediting the defense for the Ravens, but
Kind of are.
it's a quarterback driven game. The quarterback has to lead this team during times like this where it's like we are not getting it done, guys. We're tied right now with the Ravens, and they are at the 1 yard line. Luckily for the defense, they scored. We've got to put on another touchdown. We've got to get in field goal range to make this a 2-score game. He has great leadership qualities. Don't get me wrong. He's a winner. He went to the Super Bowl last year in his second season as an NFL quarterback. I'm not saying he's a bust by any means or that he cracks under pressure, but against a Ravens team with a third string quarterback and a very good defense, don't get me wrong, you still got to be able to kind of like make these plays to where you are advancing with a little bit more confidence from not only yourselves but from like people in the media, your fans, the other teams. You want to go into the next matchup thinking these guys are scared of us because of what we did against this team.
Yeah, and if you actually look, this is the last thing and we'll move on, but Joe
Mm-hmm.
Burrow's only thrown over 300 yards one time in all of his postseason games, including
Mm-hmm.
the Super Bowl. So I do think that a lot of teams go into a Bengals game and they're like, hey, just like the Justin Jefferson thing. They're like, our game plan is going to be, we can lose, but we can't get beat by this guy and this guy. And a lot of that is focused on that. So they're like, okay, then we're going to run the ball because you're going to, play soft defense so we don't throw it. And then they run the ball and it's lower scoring. But I do want to say, it sounds like you're saying like you have got to get Jamar Chase involved. Like you got to find a way to get him more involved in the game. But he was targeted 12 times and he had 9 receptions. So I do think that he had Jamar Chase involved into the game. And I just think maybe for comfort, you would like to see a little bit more points. But I think the Ravens defense that he just played, the Bills had a good defense going into the league, but it's gotten softer as the years gone on. And I think that this is the least amount of points the Bengals will score for the entirety of the playoffs. And
I hope so.
This might be the best defense that they play in the playoffs.
It might be, yeah, unless, I mean, the Bills have a pretty damn good defense, but probably not up to the Ravens standard. You're right. But yeah, hopefully they score way more than 17 points going into the next game.
Way. If they need to, they will. And I have no doubt that if the Bengals weren't playing with a 7-point lead and they were playing behind 7, then they would have scored more points. Like, I just think each game has its own narrative, and they didn't need to run the score up. They were playing with their lead and they were comfortable, but we'll see. We will see.
And real quick, like you said, only one time has he gone over 300 yards in the playoffs. That just might be the recipe for success for them. They might just not need Joe Burrow to go over 300, but they're winning games. So yeah, that might be it. Good for them though.
Take me to the Super Bowl. I don't care if you have 100 yards.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But it would be different if he had 100 yards. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, my point is
absolutely.
like, he didn't throw for 79 yards. Like, let's not be like, dude, what happened to Joe Burrow? Like, 200 yards. I mean, it's not like the worst thing ever. It's just not jumping off the screen. So the next game kind of does jump off the screen, even if all you're doing is looking at the score. The Dallas Cowboys were 3-point favorites to beat Tampa Bay. Cowboys kind of not looking that great. They get beat really bad by the Commanders, and then they barely beat the Texans. And then the week before that, the Jaguars beat them. And you go into the playoffs feeling like how you feel about the Cowboys all the time, and you're even kicking yourself for perhaps putting them in your top five. I know I was. And then the Buccaneers.
It's real personal.
Very personal. And then but something everyone can relate to. At one point we were like, damn, when they scored 52 points against the Colts, we were like, there's a lot of power in this team. So and then the Bucs, they're just lackluster all season long. But then the one game that is a win and get in against the Panthers, they let Tom Brady just get loose, and Mike Evans has 3 touchdowns. So you get this matchup where the Cowboys are you're down on them and you're up on there's optimism with the Bucs. Tom Brady playoffs, you get emotional and you pick the Bucs. Dude, none of that mattered today. The Cowboys came out and they just took care of business. They the first 4 drives were punt. They gave each other the ball back, and then the Cowboys finally drove down and got a touchdown. And then the Bucs got the ball. They drive all the way down. They're on like the 3-yard line about to answer. They missed their extra point, so a touchdown would give them a lead. Tom Brady, a stat appears onto the screen, and it says Tom Brady hasn't thrown a red zone interception since he was a Patriot. The next play, he throws an interception on the red zone. The bad luck, they paid him to do it, man. I'm positive, because every time they do that, they'll be like, he hasn't missed an extra point in 700 snaps, and then the next extra point goes through, and you're like, dude, how does that happen all the time? Well, it happened again, and it felt like a moment that changed everything. You get a touchdown there, you take a 1-point lead, you kind of have this back and forth feeling, but instead, the Cowboys get the ball, and they go down and score and never look back. We talked about it a little bit. How do you measure the Cowboys against a Buccaneers team that just looked really, really bad? I mean, what's your message to them at halftime? Like, you don't want to be like, hey man, like, don't get too high. This is the Bucs. They played bad. But you also don't want to be like, a negative Nancy that's like not, don't celebrate your playoff win. Like, you got to celebrate your playoff win. But at the same time, The goal was not to beat the Bucks. Like, we're not here to beat a 7-9 team that squeaked into the playoffs. We're here to battle Philly eventually, or the 49ers. And after this performance, do you think they can?
If I'm the coach of the Cowboys, right, and obviously they won this game, and I'm going into the half up 21-0, I'm looking at every player right now, and I'm like, you're beating Tom Brady in the fucking playoffs. Do not stop what you're doing, because you are proving to the NFL that the Cowboys deserve to be in the playoffs. You are beating Tom Brady, one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific quarterback in the NFL of all time. You're beating him right now. And that should have been, and that's the message I'm giving. I don't care about a 7-9 Tampa team. I don't care what they were doing against the bad teams, better teams, whatever teams. You are beating Tom Brady, a Super Bowl quarterback, 7-time, one with this Tampa Bay Bucks team. You are beating them. So keep the foot on the pedal and keep going. And that's what they did, because Tom Brady, and we were doing the live stream, and if some of you guys were joining us in the fourth quarter, we were like,
almost did it.
At the end of the third quarter, we're like, here we go. There's Tom Brady. He scored right before the third quarter ended. And we were like, here we go. They were up 24-6. The Cowboys were up 24-6, but we're like, they have a whole quarter to go, and Tom Brady can do it. Tom Brady was able to score another touchdown, but that was it. And the Cowboys, man, the Cowboys look good going into this matchup against the 49ers. Dak looked good. He threw 3 touchdowns or something like that. He 4 touchdowns, 305 yards. Dalton Schultz, late into the season, now into the playoffs, is looking like a legitimate tight end red zone threat, whatever. These guys have got all the stuff going for them right now. And the Tampa Bay Bucks and Brady, Brady, we mentioned it on the stream, the respect for Brady, because even as he's down 31-6, he's still coaching his guys. You got to get in here. You got the same fire and passion, I'm sure, from when he was playing football in Michigan or his first couple of years with the Patriots. Like, that same fire was showing in a game that everyone in the stadium and even he knew was over. So mad respect to him. But the other than his receivers, I mean, Brady threw it 66 times for 351 yards. And he got 10 to Godwin, 7 to Julio Jones, by the way. Mike Evans had 6. All
Shout
over
out Julio Jones.
Yeah, all of them 70, all of them over 70 yards receiving. He was trying, and he put his game out there, man. He put his best out there. So props to that. But the Cowboys are looking like a very legitimate threat going into this game against the 49ers.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Cowboys have definitely the Dak looks like he should be the franchise quarterback for the Cowboys. He looked locked in. When you just it could be a sport, it could be cleaning, but whenever you get like super locked in, you're in that mode where you can't lose. And I could see Dak on I think it was his second, maybe his third drive before the half ended, when they got that another touchdown to end the half. I was like, man, Dak is really locked in right now. And
yeah,
I've seen him look just so average that it was kind of like, it was almost surprising. I was like, dude, because we've seen Dak throw a lot of bad passes, a lot of interceptions, and Dak just seemed like he was making the right reads, the right throws. Tony Pollard, there's a lot of weapons on that team, and T.Y. Hilton has been a good addition as well. And I guess the concern moving forward is, okay, Dak had a really good game, but what does that mean for next week? Because Tampa Bay's defense, they're not terrible, but they're not the 49ers. It's not Nick Bosa. So it's a great tune-up game, but they're going to have their hands full. Full.
And if their kicking game was as good as it was tonight, it's going to be a rough go for
they're going to have to get a kicker.
Yeah, they really are, man. Whatever his name is, Brett Maher, I forget how to say his last name.
John
Had a
Mayer.
tough time. 4 missed extra points. Finally got the 5th one. So it's just he's having a tough time. But do want to get to this comment here by Bill. Anyone hear about the Bucks receiver that got carted off? Is he okay? Yeah. So Russell Gage from Twitter, what I just saw right now, he was in the hospital being treated for concussion, possible neck injuries, but he's got movement in all of his limbs, like fingers, toes, all that stuff. He's talking. So he seems to be okay. Scary moment there on the field, obviously, in that game. But yeah, he's doing well. But yeah, dude, the kicking game from the Cowboys, it's going to be rough. And against a very, very good defense against the 49ers, it might be crucial. It could be a crucial part of the game next week for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you were on or not, but I mentioned, I was like, okay, they're lucky enough where they're in a game with the Bucks that it doesn't matter. But if they're gonna go into Candlestick and try to win, every point's gonna matter. I mean,
Yeah.
every single point. And I don't know what you do at this point. I mean, are there kickers out there that are just available? I mean, isn't it like isn't your thinking at least like, hey, if there's kickers available, like the first thing I want to know is like, isn't that mean they're not good enough to be on a roster? Like, why are they available? They're probably available because they're not good enough to be on an active roster. And now we're gonna bring in one of those. I mean, I feel like it's a really difficult situation, and it seems like every couple of years there's just this one team that like has this brand new kicker problem now that we're in the playoffs. You know what I mean? It's like
it always happens. It always happens. And it seems to like I feel like the Cowboys just get screwed.
I think Vinatieri had he was like so good for like 15, 18 years. And then I remember his last playoff, he missed like 3 field goals and then retired. And I was like,
I think he was with the
damn.
Colts too.
I think he was with the Colts. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and yeah, it's unfortunate when you see, because kicking field goals is just so mental. It is so mental, and it requires so much kind of like almost like meditation where you got to just like ignore all the pressure and then it seemed like every time he kicked it, dude, you didn't see the first 3. They were like the double doink looked great compared to these.
I got like ESPN up with Scott Van Pelt, and I just saw them as we were talking about, I think like the Giants game or something like that. And I was like, wow, they were bad. They were not even close. Like you said,
They
the
were
double
not
doink
even
looked
close.
better.
I think you could probably have done a better job than what that happened. I'm not even kidding. I could have done it, but I got a bad leg, but I used to be able to at least kick a 30-yarder. These are, what are these, 30? These are 35-yard field goals.
Yeah, 35 yards, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's how every kicker in high school can kick a 35-yard field goal. Maybe Pat McAfee. Well,
yeah.
Dude, wouldn't that be insane? McAfee joins the Cowboys for a game to kick field goals,
and then he misses all 5. Watch,
and then misses all 5 because he's stoned. Yeah, God. Dude, I think the Cowboys are just be happy, right? If you're a Cowboys fan, take the dub, like sleep. They're gonna sleep great tonight, but just like don't get too high on it. I would say, because it's all for nothing if it doesn't mean. I mean, just one more win would be awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like for the Giants, they're in that zone where like that win in Minneapolis, like nothing else matters. They won their Super Bowl. They went from being one of the worst teams in the NFL to beating a top seeded team on the road, and they have a lot of long-term answers figured out. Like they've already won their season. But the Cowboys, they've been like in this window, supposedly. They've been in this window for, it seems like, 5 to 6 years, and a wild card win is not satisfying. They at least need to make it to the NFC Championship game, which they haven't even been to one since they last won the Super Bowl in like 1992. So this is just, this is just a stop on the way. But the goal is, I mean, to be satisfied, they need to win next week, or it's going to be considered another loss of a year. Like, what did you accomplish this year? You had a pretty good record, and then you beat Tampa. Okay, that means not like those are
Yeah.
forgettable years. Like, go to San Francisco and beat the 49ers, who are won 11 straight, and then people will
Exactly.
take you serious. Like, if you win that game, there's going to be people that will pick you to beat the conference championship game. So,
And
yeah.
I was just going to say, and Steve here, and one of the comments agrees with you. Dak has played well against teams under 500. His issue has been against the better teams, especially when it matters. Like you said, if he goes into San Fran next week and gets a dub, now it's like, here we go. These are the seasons that matter. Like you said, the Cowboys have been in a window for not even 6 years. It feels like 15 years they've been in a window to win. Every
Des
year
Bryant, it's like, yeah.
Exactly. Tony Romo, Des Bryant, now Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott. It seems like their window is like always open, which must be nice almost in a way, but it's always like it always ends in disappointment. But this year seems going a little different. But again, like Steve said, Dak plays well against these under 500 teams, but when he goes up against these really good teams like 49ers, Eagles, any of these teams, it's just like, oh shit, how do you play football again? You know what I mean? Like, that's where it gets to.
Dude, absolutely. So we will see. We're going to be live streaming all the games next week, and then we have our predictions coming up where we will predict if the Cowboys will finally get laid, or will it be another handy? Will it be another hand job season for the Cowboys?
I'm so glad we're continuing that.
Yeah, nobody wants that this year. So we'll see if the Cowboys finally get it done. But that is all of our it was a really good round of games. Great wild card round.
This wild card round and doing this podcast has made me like want to watch these games even more because before it was like I want to watch the big games, maybe like the Bills, the Ravens, Bengals, Monday night. But doing this podcast has made me really appreciate all the other games that go on. The Vikings, Giants, the Seahawks, 49ers. Like, it really makes you appreciate it a little bit more. So I enjoyed every second of it for sure. Very, very good weekend of football. You thought week 18 was good? Wild card weekend said, hold my beer, because we're about to make this thing amazing.
Yeah, and I'm a big divisional round guy. I always say the best football's in the divisional round, and I think we're going to have some good games coming up next week. But
absolutely,
let's get into our second segment, which I'm really excited because obviously a lot has changed and a lot has happened. So in this segment, we're going to talk about your top five.
Top five.
I was like, give me the cue.
I guess I was trying to do it so slow, but I also wasn't sure if we were doing the other one or this one first.
No, whatever. It's all good.
Yeah, we're going to get better. It's our first year. Okay, so we did this. Obviously, the playoff version was a little bit different because we were doing top five for the NFL, and then when we got into the postseason, we're ranking our playoff teams. And some of these teams are not available anymore to choose, and some are going up, and some are moving down. So we are going to do the remaining seeds that are existing. The order that Rick has, and we'll put it into another short. Rick, that was a great short, by the way. I like that song in the background. I was freestyling.
Thank you.
I just kept playing it. I was like, I love it. It was so hype. I'm working out to it. It's like, dude, we have like 50,000 hours of watching. I'm like, that's all me, dude. I'm I'm writing a song, but it's a great beat. So go check that out. But so I'm interested. You went first last time. And I think we should keep the order.
All right. So there's 8 teams remaining in the playoffs. Obviously, we had the Chiefs and Eagles, 2-1 seeds on the AFC, NFC, not play a game this week. So 8 more teams remaining, 4 games next week. Let's start it off. Like you said, I'm going to go number 8, Giants at number 8. I'm going to go the Giants at number 8. And I did talk a lot of I was hyping them up, but if we're talking, if we're really ranking these teams, they're the number 8 team, man. They really are for me. So I got Giants number 8. Kyle, who do you have at number 8?
I have the Giants.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we agree. We agree.
Yeah, we both agree on that one.
All right. Let's move on to number 7. Kyle, number 7. Who you got?
I had the Cowboys.
Wow. 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 You have some explaining to do, I think.
No, it's just, look, I wasn't going to measure them off of this game. I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And when I look at the Cowboys, I see a very inconsistent team where there's some other teams that may have questions, but I feel like I kind of got a pretty good idea of who they are. Maybe they turned a page around week 7, 8. Maybe these are the teams ahead, Duval. But I do think like the Cowboys are the exact opposite of what you want. They were really hot, and then they went the other way. And now because they beat up on a 45-year-old, Tom Brady, when he has clearly not been himself all year, the Bucks played a terrible game. It's just, no, this doesn't do anything for me. There's a lot of really good teams, and all you can do is beat who your opponent is. I'm not punishing them, but there's just other teams that I think are better, and there's just quite a few of them.
Okay, what'd you say?
Dak Prescott. He leads the league in interceptions, and he played almost half the season. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like, Mike McCarthy, not a great coach. Rode the back of Aaron Rodgers for all those years, and now he's going to come out here and be this coach. And when everything's going good, it's great. And that is undeniable. When things are going great for Cowboys, it is really easy to slip them right back up and just and forget about all this stuff. Their dysfunctional relationship type stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to remember how I felt when the Cowboys couldn't get a first down against the Commanders 1 week ago.
So you're probably going to be real mad at me later. My number 7 is
number 1. I have the boys.
The boys on Sunday night all night. I got the Jaguars sitting at number 7. Look, the Jaguars had a great comeback. Trevor Lawrence showed a lot of poison coming back after throwing 4 interceptions in that first quarter. But kind of like what we talked about with Kirk Cousins and the defense and him getting blown out some games, him having to come back, or just the team having to come back from large deficits. This isn't sustainable. The Vikings had a lot of things go their way this season for them to get that NFC North crown, and good for them. They had a really good season. They were able to come back from a lot of these things. But for the Jaguars, 4 interceptions in the first half from Trevor Lawrence, not a sustainable way to kind of move forward in the playoffs. So they got the win. Duval, absolutely great for them. I'm glad they got a win. First playoff win since 2016 for the Jaguars, and they're looking promising for the future. But they're going to be my number 7 just because of how they played that first half. And I just think every other team above them is better. I think the Jaguars will beat the Giants right now, but right now the Jaguars are going to be my number 7 team. Number 6 is
Sorry, I was still absorbing everything you said because
okay.
No, those are a lot of good points. Hard to argue that. And I'll be able to rebuttal it very, very, very shortly. So, what number are we on? Number 6.
Number 6. So I think I know who Kyle has, but I'm going to go with my number 6. Kyle's about to get so angry with me. I've got the Bengals at number 6. Outside the top 5.
I'm not mad.
Bengals number 6. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Number 6.
Bengals at number 6.
How many games have they won in a row? Do you actually know the number?
I don't. I think it's like 8 in a row. I think them and the Bengals have won, or them and the Bills have won 8 in a row, something like that. But Bengals number 6 for me, outside the top 5. They struggled against the Ravens team with barely any offensive weapons.
The 9 in a row.
9 in a row. Okay. The
Punish 'em.
Bengals and Joe Burrow, punish them. Punish them.
9 in a row, drop them. 10 in a row, drop them.
11 in a row?
Look at
bring them up a little bit.
you're killing me. This is
And
hard.
I'm killing Bill too. He's like, what?
No respect. The Bengals are so disrespected all
They
the
always
time.
are. They always are. You're right. And
You
I'm not
are
going
the
to
reason.
I'm not going to be short of it either, because I think they should have played a lot better in this game against the Ravens. Again, the Ravens defense is good, but Joe Burrow should be better, man. He should be better than 17 points. He should be better than having the defense win the game
It's
for
better
him.
than Josh Allen.
Barely.
I don't see the Bills in this spot. Barely. Josh Allen threw terrible interceptions. We didn't see any of that from Joe Burrow. I'd rather my guy have only 200 yards and 310, and he threw 3 bad picks. And
yeah, but I'd rather have 3 touchdowns too, knowing
not if you don't need.
They needed him. They needed him. They won on a defensive touchdown. How are you going to tell me they didn't need him?
That's what I was saying. They were playing with the lead. I'm convinced if the Ravens scored on that possession, the Bengals would have scored on their next drive. I'm completely convinced of that.
But what happened in the game?
It's called playing with the lead.
What happened in the game? What happened in the game?
They kept their lead and won.
Exactly.
Because of their defense.
Because of their defense.
Yeah. So
Joe Burrow's better than this.
What wins championships? What wins championships?
In this day and age, the quarterback.
No.
Yes.
Look at the numbers. The numbers don't even back that up. Look how good Kansas City was with Patrick Mahomes when they went in to play Tampa Bay and got completely wrecked by Tampa Bay's defense. The record-breaking offense that Manning had when he played the Legion of Boom in Seattle, 43-8. You can have a great offense, but when you go up against a great defense, that's why they say defense wins championships, is because your offense is only as good as how great the defense you're playing is. The Bengals defense is really underrated, and that's something I don't think people are considering. A lot of it's about Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. It's like, no. What about their defense, though? Because if their defense can force 4 turnovers in one half.
The conversation of the NFL, of the NFL has switched over from defense to offense. If you do not have a quarterback and you have a good defense, guess what? You're the Baltimore Ravens. And they are out of the play. They do, but did he play?
Yeah.
Tyler Huntley played. To me,
I thought you were talking about the Bengals.
No. The Ravens. If you have a good defense and no quarterback, guess what? You are the Ravens. Guess what? You're the 2018 Bears. High hopes, 0 offensive output. So
you can't be totally dead. But I would make an argument that Joe Burrow's not Rex Grossman or these other guys you're painting him out.
Absolutely. What I'm saying is because he's not these guys, because the NFL is now an offensive driven league, you got to score more points than this, Joe. Come on, man. You've been in the Super Bowl. And look, what we talked about earlier, does he need more than 300 yards? No, but he needs to be able to get these guys down the field in order to give Joe Mixon a touchdown, in order to be able to throw a touchdown to Hurst, a 5-yard touchdown to Hurst. We know he can make these big throws to T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, but if that's all he's got, man, and he can't drive his team down the field and you're banking on your defense, that's not a good formula, I think. Right? That's kind of why I have them at 6. Now I get that's controversial, or not 6, but 6. But I expected more from them against this Ravens team, and 17 points wasn't it.
So I'm just going to assume if you have the Bills anywhere between 1 and 4, that you're predicting the Bills destroy the Bengals.
Who do you have at number 6, Kyle?
I have the Jaguars.
The Jaguars, all right.
I got the Jaguars at number 6, and the reason the Jaguars are in front of the Cowboys is because there are certain things that matter a lot, and you just said franchise quarterback is really important. And I think that and that's why I have the Bengals high. But the Jaguars have, I believe, I can't. It's killing me. He didn't even like text me before we did this to tell me he was going to do this.
Absolutely
So I
not.
got to
Absolutely
react
not.
live. I can't even cry. So the Trevor Lawrence thing, I think Trevor Lawrence gives the Jaguars a chance. Now, this may come off as a very big surprise, but Jacksonville going into Arrowhead next week, I like that matchup. And I'll let you do the math there, but I don't think that this is an issue at all. And I expect a very good football game. And because of that, and why am I saying that? Because of Trevor Lawrence and who he's become and how he's matured. Did he have his worst first half ever, maybe in his entire life? Yeah, definitely. He was a winner his whole life. I'm sure he's never thrown 4 interceptions in a half. But he got the dust off, the Dan Campbell dust. The chalk is off.
The Dan Campbell dust.
I don't think Trevor Lawrence has to repeat another half like that. And more importantly, Kansas City's defense ranked 22 in their passing game, their running games, middle of the pack. They don't have a great defense. So I think that there's going to be opportunities for no, I'm not talking about that game. I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to have a better game even next week than he had this week. And I just like everything I'm seeing from the team right now. Never, ever, if you've learned one thing from sports movies, never count out the team that's playing with the emotion. And right now, I think Jacksonville is just playing with a level of emotion that we're not seeing from the other teams.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, the Doug Peterson thing, moving on from old stinky fingers, like you like to call them, it's a great story that they're coming into this season, not looking great at first, but winning the division at the end of it, and now winning a playoff game. So 6-7 for the Jaguars, 6 for you, 7 for me, not bad. At number 5, Kyle, who do you have number 5 right now?
At number 5, I have the Chiefs.
Interesting decision, but not totally crazy. So obviously they didn't play a game. You can really only go off week 18, the last 2 games, maybe any news, but like that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I could do a really quick explanation. So the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and that means the Chiefs are going to be a top 5 team for the next decade, right? So Chiefs will always be in that range, but what's really going to take the Chiefs from that to 1 and 2, you got to do the things that 1 and 2 are doing, like being the number 1 points per game and the number 1 defense per game. There's only one team doing that. That the fact that recipe is even possible, that there could be a team built of that concoction where they have that. I mean, that it is a recipe for lopsided games. The Chiefs don't have it. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, you're always going to be scared if he touches the ball last, or if they get up by a touchdown and you only have 22 seconds, then that's enough time for him to drive down. All of that is valid. And Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the world. And I think he'll go down as the best ever when it's all said and done. Too early to tell, but you got to respect the Chiefs. Tough place to play in Arrowhead, but I do think the Chiefs, they have weaknesses, and it's easy to forget about those when you're glamoring over Patrick Mahomes' no look sidearm snake eyes passes. But you can't forget that you also have to do the little things right. And that's what I'm wondering about the Chiefs.
Okay, I like it. And again, like you said, are the weaknesses being overlooked because of Patrick Mahomes? Can Patrick Mahomes do what he's been doing and just kind of play better than any of those weaknesses? And they didn't play a game in Wildcard, so I like it. It's not like crazy or anything. I don't think it's anything out of anybody's ordinary, I think, at this point. But my number 5 is going to be the Bills. We mentioned them earlier. The Bills at number 5. They're not crazy from the Bengals. They had a rough game against the Dolphins, against a third-string quarterback, Tyreek Hill, all these guys, Mike McDaniel, sure. But the Bills looked a little rough. You mentioned how Josh Allen had 2 interceptions, 3 touchdowns, but he was being a little careless with the ball again. And this is not the time, like I was saying, this is not the time to be careless with the ball. This is not that midseason little slump, little skid you had. This is win and continue, lose, you're done with the season. And the Bills and Josh Allen, specifically playing a little careless. The defense gave up 31 points to the Dolphins. It's getting a little like, oh shit, what's going on, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with the Bills at number 5.
That's totally understandable. I have the Bills at number 4, so they're just
okay.
one. Yeah, they're just one ahead because I have all the same concerns. Like I could literally clip what you just said and just insert it, so I won't echo everything. But I have the same concerns. I just think the Bills are capable defensively when they get it together of playing better, and when Josh Allen is really like, if he can get that type of locked in that Dak is, he's unbeatable. So I do like the Bills just as a team. I think the Bills are a better team than the Chiefs. Whether if they ever play each other, who would win just depends on who's having a better day. But if I had to take one team right now, I would take the Bills. They're at number 4.
Okay. My number 4 is going to be the Cowboys. I'm going Cowboys number 4.
I forgot the Cowboys were even in this hunt. Oh my God.
Kyle hates me right now. Now look, what did I say earlier? Kyle is getting up and literally exiting his residence. He is literally Kyle has exited his home, has driven away to the East Coast.
You hear my tire squealing from the. Is that him?
What did I say earlier? Halftime coach speech. You were beating Tom Brady. You're beating one of the most prolific quarterback in the NFL of all time. You're beating him right now. Yes, he's 45 years old, a 7-9 team, but that doesn't matter, dude. You were on Tom Brady's fucking nutsack last week going, Tom Brady in the playoffs. You never know. He might win. This might be a good. You can't turn around and say this isn't a good win for the Cowboys if they beat Tom Brady. He looked not good. He did not look good. You're right. Like Tom Brady didn't look good. Cowboys looked really good. Cowboys looked really good. Scoring 31. What was it? 31, right? 14.
Yeah, they did good.
They did what they were supposed to do, man. And look, Cowboy. They've done it in the past. They've done it our entire NFL life. This may or may not be different. That's why I have them ranked at number 4. It could be a little different. Cowboys fans are loving it. Jerry Jones looks like he's about to get a Super Bowl before he dies. Who knows, man? This might be a crazy. I'm not calling it. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Honestly, at this point, you might as well just go for it. I mean, you've already. I feel like you drank the Kool-Aid, and this is so surprising to me because I brought up all these hypothetical conversations about do you think they should not get too high on the Cowboys, and this whole time it's you. It's you. You're the one that I've been hypothetically talking to, and I don't find out
hypothetically talking. The Cowboys are doing it. The Cowboys are doing it. They're proving you wrong.
They had a good win. That's fine. I think the Bengals had a good win.
And
every team that won in the wild card game besides the Bills had a good win.
And they were second in the NFC East this year.
Yeah, they were, but what did they look like the last 5 weeks?
And I mean, what did the Bills look like mid-season? And what are they looking like in their first game? They're looking pretty sloppy, I would say. But here we are, right, talking about how they could possibly still be in the Super Bowl, and you have them ranked number 4.
Well,
I don't know.
You bailed yourself out. You haven't escaped because the team they're playing is, you haven't listed them yet, so you can always go back and say I had the other one higher. But this is no doubt really high. It's so high that I expect almost anything to happen. So my next team, this is my number 3, is the Bengals. I have the Bengals at number 3 as the only team in my opinion, that didn't do anything worth like complaining about. I mean, you had your complaints, so but you look at the other games and the Bills. It was like, whoa, what happened to the Bills? The Jags down 27. The Giants, nothing, no complaints there, right? No complaints there. But when I look at I also don't think the Giants have the same ceiling. That this is a team that is currently the AFC reigning champions. They are the king of the AFC until somebody removes that. Whether that would be somebody, Patrick Mahomes, if he's never beaten Joe Burrow. So I have to look at that matchup. It's starting to matter. It's starting to matter that every time the Bengals and Chiefs play, it's the Bengals that win. There comes a point where it's not a fluke anymore. Joe Burrow is just he's up to the challenge. It's almost like, the Cowboys play underneath their competition. It seems like Joe Burrow always rises above the occasion. And I think he always does whatever is required. He goes here. So if it's beating the Chiefs by 3, he'll do it. And if it's beating the Ravens by 7, he'll do it. And you don't like that because you want to see that bigger margin. But you look at all the playoff games that the Bengals have played, and all they do is rise above the occasion every week. They don't smack anybody. They don't like just, whoa. And I know that's what you want. But honestly, it's when it happens for such a pattern, you just get used to it and you get comfortable. You start getting more comfortable with the 3-point lead in the third quarter. If you're a Bengals fan, you're like, this is how we win. The game is close, and then Joe Burrow wins it for us when it matters the most. And the Bengals, their defense, underrated. When they played that Tom Brady that you were talking about, they forced him to do 4 turnovers in one half of football. They got pretty good special teams. No doubt they have the best receiving core in the NFL. Joe Mixon looked good, and Joe Burrow. This is, in my opinion, this is my best team in the AFC right now.
Okay. I've said my piece about the Bengals, so I won't go into the Bengals. My number 3.
You don't agree? No, we're not going back. Okay.
You motherfucker. My number 3 for the top 8 in the playoffs are the Eagles. Eagles are my number 3. They are the number 1 seed, and they got the bye for a reason. They're the best team in the NFC. What I will say is they're number 3, and there's still one team left in the NFC. So you do the math here, right? Eagles, they've yet to play a game in the playoffs, but we said it all year long. They are great. They're built like completely. They are a complete team. They look good. Now we can only go off what the regular season was, and they lost their week 18 against who was it? The Commanders.
Lose. No, they won.
Oh, did they win?
The Eagles?
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat the Giants to lock up the first seed.
Oh, okay. No, they lost. I'm pretty sure.
That's how they got the 1 seed. Yeah, they had to win. No, the Commanders beat the Cowboys.
Yep. That's the one I'm thinking about. Okay, so we can only go off what they said, but I number 1 seed in the NFC, I'm going Eagles number 3. I don't know. Do you have anything for that? I feel like you've got them next up.
Yeah, I do. Eagles at 2. Eagles are like Jalen Hurts. He's already into the club. Okay. The guy is a straight up athlete. He's a physical specimen. He can run the ball for over 100 yards and a half. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They can tight end the ball with Goodert, who's literally, it's always been, you had George Kittle and Travis. It's really been Travis Kelce. And then you got George Kittle and Darren Waller maybe. And then they're like the rest of the NFL. Well, this year, Goodert has jumped himself into those tiers. And defensively, they can play. They're a complete football team all around that can beat you in a multitude of different ways. They're an extremely dangerous team that you can't even really game plan around because whatever you stop, they'll do something different. You're going to play the pass, we're going to run. You're going to stop the run, we're going to get the tight end involved. Like They are very, very quick, but most importantly, Jalen Hurts is just a winner, and he will not overlook any opponent, and he's going to play an extremely good football game this week, and they're going to be playing the Giants, and that's a tough one for the Giants. That's a tough setting.
And Bill here saying we will fix that. They beat our third stringers barely.
Bill taking the Giants to beat the Eagles.
There you go. See,
well, also Hurts was out for a couple of weeks, and I don't think he's at 100%. We've seen the Eagles when they're firing on all cylinders. We saw they only lost one game with Jalen Hurts this year, like out of a whole year. That's a lot of wins.
Yeah,
I agree. Shit.
that's a ton of fucking wins. My number 2 is gonna be the Chiefs. Number 1 in the AFC for a reason. Bye week for a reason. And here you are. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Ready? You want to talk about the most disrespected team being the Bengals? What about the Chiefs? The Chiefs have been the dominant AFC team for a long time. Yes, they lost to the Bengals last year to go to the Super Bowl, but
this year.
Consistent. Yeah, well, hold on. Consistently dominant. How are you going to say the Bengals are the most disrespected team when you've got the Chiefs here sitting at number 5 in your rankings?
Because they're the reigning champions. The Bengals are, not the Chiefs. And the Bengals played the Chiefs this year and won.
Champions. They're the reigning AFC championships 1 year. How many times have the Chiefs been in the AFC championships?
Joe Burrow
How
had
many
his
Super
first
Bowls
year.
did the Chiefs have?
It was Joe Burrow's first year.
Second year.
Oh, he hurt his knee. He was out the whole year.
Second year.
Came back and took his team to the Super Bowl.
I'll tell you right now, more AFCs championships and more Super Bowls than the Bengals. So if you're going to talk about
Tom Brady's got
teams,
more than
you want to talk about disrespected teams, the Chiefs have been the most disrespected team by you, at least by you. In the preseason, you're like, I don't know, the Chiefs may not have it, but I'm still having them winning the division, right? What did I say? The Chiefs have been winning. The Chiefs haven't lost yet. Why would I pick the Broncos or the Chargers or the Raiders to win this division? Why would I pick any AFC team over the Chiefs right now to beat the Chiefs in the AFC? Just because the Bengals are defending AFC championships? I don't care. They just scored 17 points against the Ravens. You're going to tell me that's defending AFC championship worthy right there? Because the Ravens limped into the playoffs without a starting quarterback. So most disrespected, number 2 Chiefs.
As a kid that grew up moving around a lot, one thing was always a thing when you're a young kid is that there's always a bully. And you may be the biggest, there's always the biggest bully. Like the guy that was held back 4 years, there's always like that one that's no doubtedly nobody wants to fuck with that guy.
Yeah.
And that's all cool even if he's been the guy for 7 years. But when some dude comes in on, whatever military orders, some crazy young kid that has traveled around the world and he's way bigger, right? All of a sudden, it doesn't really matter that this kid for the last 7 years was the big guy on campus. And it's not disrespectful to say there's a bigger kid on the campus now. And
but it's not facts.
It is. As of right now.
Literally not.
This is the one argument you literally can't make, because since Joe Burrow has been the starting quarterback for the Bengals after his injury, he's taken his team to the Super Bowl, which included going to Arrowhead and beating the Chiefs. And then he, right then in that moment, was the biggest guy on campus. That's not disrespectful. It's a fact. When Mahomes went home and Joe Burrow had to hop on a flight because he's going to the Super Bowl, that was the moment that he became the bigger guy. That's why the NFL was like, hey, that's a good matchup. Let's do it again in the regular season. They do it again. And guess what? Mahomes goes back to Arrowhead again with a loss, and Joe Burrow won. And now you're like, that's disrespectful to the Chiefs. They've been to the AFC Championship game 4 times. But has he ever beaten Joe Burrow? We have to check that box in order for you to. I could see you saying the Chiefs obviously are good, but how could I be disrespecting a team that's never beaten Joe Burrow? He has to do it once, right? How can he
So
not ever do
you
it?
want him to beat a guy he's seen once in the playoffs. You were saying one time
And
in
in
the
the regular
playoffs and the
season.
regular season. Okay, regular season for sure. Stakes aren't high in the regular season. You want me to say this is like, I feel like you're talking Burrow, Mahomes, like Brady and Manning right now. They've
Yes,
met once in the
absolutely.
playoffs. They've met once in the playoffs, and you're going to tell me right now he's the biggest guy? Bullshit. One Super Bowl, 2 AFC championships for Mahomes, 1 AFC championship, 1 Super Bowl loss for Burrow right now. So who's really the biggest guy in the room? Not Burrow, just because he's defending champions and he's beaten Mahomes once in the playoffs. That is nowhere near what you're trying to make this out to be. This isn't this big thing yet. We got to go for the rest of the decade to see how this matchup actually goes. 1-0 is not he can't beat Burrow in the playoffs. No, come on. That's BS. We know that's bullshit, dude. You can't make this into this large thing just because he beats him in the regular season as well. The regular season isn't the playoffs. That's the playoffs when it matters. Sure, in the future, we're going to be talking about all the times that they've played regular season playoffs. But the biggest guy in the room right now in the AFC is the Chiefs, and you can't convince me otherwise. You really can't.
The stats also back up Joe Burrow too. When you look at the most recent seasons, like if you look at their completion percentage throughout their career, Joe Burrow is 68.2% to Mahomes 66.3%. And
Wait, how much?
Mahomes is
What is that again?
68.2 Joe
Yeah.
Burrow's completion percentage to Mahomes 66.3.
How many more years does Mahomes have on Burrow?
You don't think Joe Burrow is going to continue to get better? You think he's going to
But
digress?
well, we're talking about stats right now, right? How many more years? How many more completions? How many more touchdowns? How many more playoffs? How many more everything does
That's
Mahomes
why I
have
have
over
to.
Burrow?
That's why I could only use that stat is because he's been in the league longer. It wouldn't be fair.
Well, you can't bring up any stats in favor of Joe Burrow and be like he's better than Mahomes. Mahomes has been in the league 2 more years, 2 full seasons longer than Burrow.
And it has. So, in your opinion, if Joe Burrow and Mahomes played again, I'm just going off of your philosophy. Joe Burrow could beat
Yeah.
Mahomes again in the AFC Championship game, and it doesn't matter to you.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying we have to look at this over a period of time. That's like it's honestly.
But why? We don't do that with sports. Dallas just beat Tampa, and you threw him to 4. We just
What were we
things-
talking about? Tom Brady going into this matchup against the Cowboys. He is undefeated against the Cowboys. Going into this game, you even said it yourself. Oh shit, Tom Brady in the playoffs, undefeated against the Cowboys. I think I took the Cowboys because I thought they were the better team, but that's a storyline. That is over time. You don't go into this game and go, Tom Brady is 1-0 against the Cowboys. Oh shit, that's it. It's over.
But he's
What
not
I'm
just
saying-
1-0. He's 3-0.
With 2 of those being in the regular season, 1-0 being against in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, on the road in Arrowhead. That matters. That you can't
No,
just say it doesn't
It does.
count. It wasn't
I'm
even in Cincinnati.
But what I'm saying is, you got to give it time, man. You can't just go into this game and be like, Mahomes or Burrow has Mahomes' number. You can't just 3-0. It's 3 games.
It's
2
not
of them
just
being in
me
the
that
regular
thinks
season.
that. I feel like collectively a lot of people know that. It's like his kryptonite at this point. Everybody has one, and that's okay.
Sure.
Mahomes beats a lot of
Absolutely.
people.
Absolutely.
And then when he plays Joe Burrow, it just doesn't. It hasn't happened yet. We haven't seen it. We got to
you're
see
right.
it at least one time, I think.
I just don't feel like this is a bigger thing than what it is. It's been 3 games, and yes, one of them was an Arrowhead in the AFC Championship, but it's been 3 games. It's been 1 playoff game. Let's get.
He's the only quarterback that has been right here. It says Burrow's the only quarterback drafted since 2017 with a 500 or better record against Mahomes among 17 quarterbacks to face him, fitting the criteria. He's 2-0 at the time of this article and become the first quarterback to beat Mahomes 3 straight times, and then he did. So
all facts.
It's
all
not.
Facts.
Joe Burrow also is in different territory as the other guys in the league too. Like he's doing things that other guys haven't done. And the fact that they weren't even on the list of favorites to go to the Super Bowl. They were like the 8th team. They were like with Tampa Bay. And I don't know. The Chiefs, I don't think the Chiefs were disrespecting us. They were still right now, like the odds are they're like the second favorite team to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I just feel like we don't crown the Bengals yet. They've had one good postseason. The Chiefs have had 4 of them.
I will adjust it when appropriate. That's how I feel about it.
So
I'm like,
look, the facts are the facts. You're right. The facts are the facts. Joe Burrow 3-0 versus Mahomes. 1-0 in the playoffs when it mattered. But the Chiefs right now are not the smaller guy, dude. They are what the Bengals want to be in the next 3 years, right? They want to be going to the AFC Championship. They want to host it. They want to win a Super Bowl. I just feel like with Joe Burrow, this whole like he's 3-0. I just feel like we're negating everything Patrick Mahomes did pre Joe Burrow. You know, it's like the BC and the AD, like before Christ, and the AD is like as everything that Mahomes did BJ before Joe, like you know what I mean? So like, do we not really look at that, or is it like after Joe, AJ is when we count it? You know what I mean? I just don't like that we're negating that, and I'm not saying you are. I just feel like that's the overall thought.
If the Chiefs get an opportunity to play the Bengals and win, I'll take a step towards you. But if it's hard to beat people twice in a row, and then he did it 3 times in a row, 4 times in a row is like we could agree if the Bengals beat the Chiefs in an AFC Championship game that there's like a legitimate pattern there.
In the playoffs, 2-0, I guess we can I will take a step forward to your side. How about we do that? How about we do that? We take a step forward.
Joe Burrow's first 2 years starting a full season, and he goes to 2 straight Super Bowls. That's what Mahomes did until Joe Burrow got there at that point, right?
And now we're able to say that. We're able to say that now, right? Like after 4 years, like 4 AFC championships, a Super Bowl loss, but 2 Super Bowl appearances, right?
So you think it is kind of like a fluke a little bit? Because I'm like, why wouldn't that happen? They're the reigning champions. Why would I not take the Bengals to go back?
I'm not saying it's a fluke. I'm saying he's had 1 full year as a starter, 1 full playoff. This isn't a fluke, man, but it's been 1 year. He's in the playoffs now, and he's looking really good. It's not a fluke. I'm just saying, give it some time.
I get that. You're like, pay your respect where it's due. Pay your respect where it's due.
Right.
And I'm like, there's a new sheriff in town.
You're like, there's a new Peyton in town. All right. That number 2 got dicey. Number 1, 49ers. We both have it. We both have the 49ers.
I'm so glad you came along, man. I honestly, when you said number 2, Chiefs, and I was smiling, it was because I knew your number 1 had to be the Niners. And wow, that's a big jump.
At least we agree on number 1 and number 8.
You were really close on all of them. Like I got Jags 1 spot, but you have, like Bills 1 spot above me.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of really close similarities, but I feel like you're right. This is one that we can agree at this point. They're winning. Their average margin of win is 20 points. Like that's crazy. That's 3 possessions. So the 49ers don't play close games. It would be nice to see how Brock Purdy handles a close game. And then when his defense finally had a bad day at the office, we saw in Las Vegas and with the Raiders. And we all liked what we saw. Purdy went back and forth and won the game. So I trust the guy to win in close games. I don't know if he'll be in one this week, but what's there not to like?
No, exactly.
We could talk about the things we like. A shorter conversation is, what is there not to like?
Very little, I think. I mean, the first half was probably a little scary. Brock Purdy wasn't making great throws, but then he improved, and that's really the only thing not to like is that's kind of it. His first playoff game started off a little dicey. unproven in the playoffs, but he's got a really good win against the Seattle Seahawks, which isn't necessarily like almost like a measuring stick game, like you've said, but it's a playoff win under his belt already. 6-0 under him, 11 wins in a row. There's, like you said, we could go on for as long as we did on the number 2 Chiefs, on how much we like the 49ers. It's a pretty simple number 1. I think they blew out the Seattle Seahawks. They, like I said, won 11 in a row. They are coming into these playoffs hot.
Absolutely. So that was our top teams in the NFL. Let us know if you agree with them. If you don't, let us know where you rank the Bengals and Chiefs. And then our next
and KC's here in the chat saying, thank goodness we'll decide who's best this year in the playoffs. And Rick is right. Over the next few years, we'll have a better comparison between all the QBs and teams. So I wanted to highlight that comment because he said Rick is right.
His name is KC. Who did you think he was going to go for?
He knows not to disrespect. He knows not to disrespect. Real quick, just want to give a hello to Yeti Dub. What's up, Yeti Dub? Appreciate you hopping on the stream. But yes, Kyle, what do we got next?
All right, so next we're going to do our top 5 players of the wildcard round.
And we're gonna try to get through this a little quick because we are almost at 2 hours here on the stream.
Yeah, I can be really quick. You want me to just run through mine and then you hit yours?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So number 1, Brock Purdy.
Yep.
Young guy, first playoff game, broke like 5 records, won by 20 points or whatever it was. Really impressed with his performance because we didn't know what we were going to get. And he just continued his dominance into the postseason. And I think he was the clear number 1. Number 2, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones made leaps and bounds of improvement in the last 4 weeks. And to maybe see more of the same would be expected on a good note, but we saw something different. We saw something we didn't expect. We saw him play his best game maybe of his career in the most important moment of his entire life. And because of that, Daniel Jones gets the number 2 spot. Number 3, Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence's ability to come back from 27 to 0, not lose confidence, not forget who he is, and go out there and have one of the greatest halves of football I've ever seen. Trevor Lawrence definitely's got some thick skin to do that. Number 4, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, he didn't make mistakes. He was locked in. He threw the ball to his receivers. When the rush came, he got rid of the ball. He put it in the right spot. He didn't turn the ball over. He ran. He took shots. He wanted it. And he was the clear leader for the Cowboys. And he gets that number 4 spot for that. Number 5, Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel, in very unfavorable conditions, I think DraftKings had it as a 13-point underdog, which is about as big as it can get in a playoff game. Goes into Buffalo and gets the defense to throw them off. The defense was really good. Simple plays. One thing that you can't say is that Miami shouldn't have been there. And honestly, the only thing after that game that was left to say was Buffalo would have been eliminated if Tua played. So because of that, Mike McDaniel gets that 5th spot.
I love it. I'm going to go 5-1. So I'm going to start off with my number 5. And after such a shitty showing of kicking we saw in this Monday Night Football game, my number 5 is going to go to Robbie Gould of the San Francisco 49ers. 4 for 4 on field goals, 3 for 3 on extra points.
He's a Bears fan.
and that's true. He's been in the league far too long. He is just still doing it. He's still 100%. You can move the extra point 5 more yards. He'll still nail that motherfucker. So he is my number 5 best performance of the wild card week. My number 4 is going to go, and I know we said players, but I got to give it to an entire defense, the Jags defense. 3 total points allowed in the second half against the Chargers. Hard to do that against a good Chargers team, but they were able to do it, and a big reason why not only did they win their Week 18 matchup against the Titans to secure up that AFC South, but to win their first playoff game in almost 7 years. So big ups to Jags defense for 3 points allowed in the second half.
That's a good one.
Yeah, my number 3 is going to go to TJ Hawkinson for being the only bright spot, I think, for that Vikings team against the Giants. 10 receptions, 129 yards. The trade deadline pickup by the Vikings from the the Lions, in their own division, an in-division trade. I was like, what the hell? He turned out to be a really, really awesome weapon for Kirk. Very reliable too. And I mean, you see what he did in the playoffs, 10 receptions, 129 yards. Unfortunately, he was on the receiving end of that terrible pass to end the Vikings season this year, but he averaged over 10 yards per reception. So he did really well.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's going to be a lot of fun to see these, I think in hindsight next year, it'll almost be disappointing that he left the Lions.
Yeah, it might turn out that way because I don't know how many more years he has left. I wonder if it was just maybe like a rental type of thing where it's like, he's got
one more year.
Okay, so he's got one more year with the Vikes. We'll see how that turns out next year. My number 2 is going to be Gabe Davis from the Buffalo Bills. 6 receptions, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Beautiful touchdown catch, by the way. Tippy-toed after that basket catch from Josh Allen. And then my number 1 performance player of this wildcard weekend is going to be Christian McCaffrey. 15 carries, 119 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Brock Purdy did really well, and he's going to take most of the spotlight, but I think McCaffrey definitely should be on the edge of that spotlight with what he did in this game and what he's been doing for the 49ers. But especially in this game, you can't go wrong with any of the weapons here for the 49ers. So
yeah, I can't believe that
1.
They acquired him with a couple third-day draft picks. It just doesn't make sense.
Right? All right.
I will not let it go.
Kyle, the people have been waiting, and I have been waiting pretty patiently for my punishment for the record keeping that we've had all season. The overall record, I will say just before we get into this, our overall record was 110-44. So on games we agreed, we were 110-44. Not bad. Over 50, almost 60% there. But when it came down to it, it came down to week 18. Like a lot of games in week 18 in the NFL this season, our record came down to week 18. Kyle edged me out hot. 40-39. And I was 39-40. You beat me by 1 game, everybody. So we had a really good competition, but Kyle edged me out 40-39. Kyle, over to you.
All right. So a couple days ago, the NFL released the opponents. We don't have a schedule, but we know who we're going to play. So the Broncos are going to play the Bears next week. NFC North plays AFC West. Rick, there's part 1 and part 2 of your punishment. This part, you're not going to like.
Come on.
Part 1, you're going to have to wear Broncos gears for the Broncos-Bears game.
I can't even wear a hat?
No hat. Nothing. Bears. And if you're streaming the game, you can't have any Bears stuff behind you. No Bears flags.
God.
Like you got to turn the camera. You can have the hockey and the baseball. You can do that. No affiliation with the Chicago Bears at all. You have to be like the owner of the Miami Dolphins when he wasn't allowed to even be on the premise for talking to Tom Brady. That's how this game has to be.
This is what I get for putting the Chiefs at number 2. Now I know.
And this one you're going to not like more. Next year, I got a feeling for both of the Packers-Bears games, it's on its way. You will be on camera live streaming the game wearing this.
Fuck you, dude.
And that is the naughty punishment. We called it a punishment. It's only fun if we deliver.
My God.
We have to deliver. You don't have to kill anybody, but that's what I meant when you got to kill your own ego, because everything in you is gonna repulse that.
Okay.
And yeah, we can't wait to watch, man. We're excited.
I can wait. So no bears in the stream, no bears on my body while I'm watching the Broncos game.
No bears in your body
Packers,
besides your bare ass.
That's hot. For the Packers game, if I'm wearing that sweater, can I at least wear the hat? Can I wear a shirt underneath? Like it's not showing.
Only if you wear the hat backwards, so only you know you're wearing the bear hat.
Oh
I will let you let yourself know, but you can't let the public know. This is awesome.
Bill's laughing. In case he's saying all for a 1-game difference.
Hey, next year I might be the one getting a punishment. Who knows? You know?
Oh, you're gonna get punished, big boy. Just leave it to a fucking Green Bay or Wisconsin, native.
This is a perfect year for
to
this.
fuck with me like that. God damn it.
You get Broncos.
And now I'm watching sports and I got Mike McCarthy's fucking face right there. The Super Bowl winner for the Packers with Aaron Rodgers later. Oh my God. Well, you guys heard it. I'm probably not going to be on this podcast next year. So there you go. There's my,
no, he'll be back trying to edge me out next year.
Oh, I'm gonna pick what the experts pick.
Yeah, you're just gonna be so like super serious. No Steelers, funny bit. And the Steelers will actually win the North next year.
Yeah. Oh, Casey's saying revenge is best served cold. Oh my God, he's doing it. He's definitely doing it cold. All right, Kyle. Well, you bent me over and you fucked me, so that's cool.
I can sleep now.
I can sleep now. This is what I get for picking the Chiefs at number 2. Anyway,
things would have been a lot smoother if you would have just gone with the Bengals.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on this episode, another 2-hour episode for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed all the content. Hopefully you guys were with us during the stream of the Monday Night Football and the Super Wildcard weekend. But we hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, you can find me at And Now Rick on Twitter. Kyle, where are you going to find you?
You can find me at FTBLONLY podcast, all caps. And yeah, follow and I'll follow back. Since this crew, I'll follow back. When we get bigger, I might not put that out there.
I may not do this.
I don't want to follow 100,000 people. Like, who are you?
No promises. We're gonna make sure to put a little asterisk at the bottom. May not actually follow.
That would be hilarious.
That would,
because you're just like brutally honest for no reason, like things you don't need to say.
Not even brutally honest, you're just being brutal. And you could follow the Star 6 Media page on Twitter at _Star 6 Media. And you can follow us at Star 6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook. And catch all of our other shows like EAFP, Big League Chicago, JCA Sports, 3 Up, 3 Down, Sports Strip Live, and Slot Shot Hockey Podcast. So definitely follow us. And we will see you guys next time. Bill, appreciate the compliments. Y'all are the best. I appreciate that. KC, it's also been a pleasure on our end, my friend. Appreciate that. So thank you guys for tuning in, and subscribe, like, and share this podcast and the live streams with all your friends. Let us know how we're doing by rating us on any of the Apple or Spotify or any other Google, whatever you listen to this podcast on. So make sure to rate us. Kyle, you got any last words before we skedaddle up out of here?
That's all I got, man.
All righty. Well, from Kyle and I, see ya.